Okay, so this is Practicing the Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Okay? Have you heard of it? Have you heard of this book? Oh. Okay. Being and Enlightenment, Chapter 1. There is an eternal, ever-present, one life beyond the myriad forms of life that are subject to birth and death. I call that God. Is it one life? He uses capitals when he's talking about God, spirit, being. These are just many words for the same thing. Okay. Many people use the word God to describe it. I often call it being. The word being explains nothing, but nor does God. Being, however, has the advantage that it is an open concept. It does not reduce the infinite, invisible to finite entity. So, infinite, you know what that means?
Yeah.
Going and going. Invisible, which is God, right? To a finite entity. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It is impossible. I don't believe the word God does that too necessarily, but we kind of do because we tend to project ourselves onto God, make God in our image. It is impossible to form a mental image of it. Can you form a mental image of being?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's an idiot to say it's impossible. Nothing's impossible with God. Nobody can claim exclusive possession of being. It is your very presence, and it is immediately accessible to you as the feeling of your own presence. So it is only a small step from the word being to the experience of being. Being is not only beyond, but also deep within, every form as its innermost invisible and indestructible essence. This means that it is accessible to you now as your own deepest self, your true nature. But don't seek to grasp it with your mind. Don't try to understand it. You can know it only when the mind is still. When you are present, when your attention is fully and intensely in the now, being can be felt, but it can never be understood mentally. To regain awareness of being and to abide in that state of feeling realization is enlightenment. To regain awareness of being, okay, and to abide in that state of feeling realization is enlightenment. The word enlightenment conjures up the idea of some superhuman accomplishment, and the ego likes to keep it that way, but it is simply your natural state of felt oneness with being. It is a state of connectedness with something immeasurable and indestructible, something that, almost paradoxically, is essentially you, and yet is much greater than you. It is finding your true nature beyond name and form. The inability to feel this connectedness gives rise to the illusion of separation from yourself and from the world around you. You then perceive yourself consciously or unconsciously as an isolated fragment. Fear arises and conflicts within and without become the norm. The greatest obstacle to experiencing the reality of your connectedness is identification with your mind, which causes thought to become compulsive. Not to be able to stop thinking is a dreadful affliction. But we don't realize this because almost everybody is suffering from it, so it is considered normal. This incessant mental noise prevents you from finding that realm of inner stillness that is inseparable from being. It also creates a false mind, made self, that casts a shadow of fear and suffering. Identification with your mind creates an opaque screen of concepts, labels, images, words, judgments, and definitions that block all true relationship. It comes between you and yourself, between you and your fellow man and woman, between you and nature, between you and God. It is the screen of thought that creates the illusion of separateness, the illusion that there is you and a totally separate other. You then forget the essential fact that underneath the level of physical appearances and separate forms, you are one with all that is. The mind is a superb instrument if used rightly. Used wrongly, however, it becomes very destructive. To put it more accurately, it is not so much that you use your mind wrongly. You usually don't use it at all. It uses you. This is the disease. You believe that you are your mind. This is the delusion. The instrument has taken you over. It is almost as if you are possessed without knowing it, and so you take the possessing entity to be yourself. The beginning of freedom is the realization that you are not the possessing entity, the thinker. Knowing this enables you to observe the entity. The thinker. The moment you start watching the thinker, a higher level of consciousness becomes activated. You then begin to realize that there is a vast realm of intelligence beyond thought. That thought is only a tiny aspect of that intelligence. You also realize that all the things that truly matter, beauty, love, creativity, joy, inner peace, arise from beyond the mind. You begin to awaken. Freeing yourself from your mind. The good news is that you can free yourself from your mind. This is the only true liberation. You can take the first step right now. Start listening to the voice in your head as often as you can. Pay particular attention to any repetitive thought patterns, those old audio tapes that have been playing in your head perhaps for many years. This is what I mean by watching the thinker, which is another way of saying listen to the voice in your head. Be there as the witnessing presence. When you listen to that voice, listen to it impartially. That is to say, do not judge. Do not judge or condemn what you hear, for doing so would mean that the same voice has come in again through the back door. You'll soon realize there is the voice, and here I am listening to it, watching it. This, I am, realization, it's God realization. This sense of your own presence is not a thought. It arises from beyond the mind. Beyond the mind. So when you listen to a thought, you are aware not only of the thought, but also of yourself as the witness of the thought. So, a new dimension of consciousness has come in. So you are identifying that you are watching the thought, but you're also watching yourself watch the thought. You're aware of self that's watching the thought. So you're aware of your two selves, supposedly, that you identify with, your thoughts. You think that's yourself. You think your thoughts are yours. They're not all your thoughts. You know how the fuck I know when people are talking about me and what they're saying? Because I perceive thoughts. Now, mostly I feel it. But I also will get a thought in my head. That's not my thought, I know. Okay. How do I confirm? This is what I've been dealing with for so many years. Why I've put up with dirt bags and shit like that. Why I give people just enough rope to hang themselves, even though I know they're going to do it. I know what they're going to do before they do it. It's this knowing right here. Do you notice that my head's kind of large? My forehead. Do you notice that? Frontal lobe part of my head. That's, a little overdeveloped. Do you think it is?
It's nice. It's a nice skull. I think it's intelligence, you know? I mean, that's the first thing that pops into my mind when I see.
Are you understanding what I'm reading?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any questions? So, were you able to experience that as I was reading?
Yes,
Were you able to watch your thoughts and then watch yourself watching the thoughts?
Totally. It was like I let go of the thinking part when you brought that up. Instantaneously.
Well, that's because you were in the moment.
Yeah.
That's because you're practicing being in the moment. That's another lesson in here.
Yeah, but
Okay.
it was spot on, Dan, because
Okay, I don't hear it. As you listen to the thought, you feel a conscious presence, your deeper self, behind or underneath the thought, as it were. So you are not the thought. You are the one that's watching the thought, not judging the thought. Now you gotta remember, in teachings it says, first of all, Jesus said, you'll be judged accordingly to how you are judged. Okay? He's not the only one that said that. Buddha and him had very similar teachings, actually. Buddha came before him. But you, as you think, so you are. I think, therefore I am. It's the same idea. When you're in a position of judging people, you are judging yourself too. So you're putting yourself on that cross to be crucified. You're banging the nails in. You're playing martyr. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay. So the thought, when you're doing this, you will know you're doing this because the thought loses its power over you and quickly subsides. Because you are no longer energizing the mind through identification with it. This is the beginning of the end of involuntary and compulsive thinking. This is something you, as much as you may not like this right this moment, you're in the present moment. That's one step. The other step is if you can step back and become the observer of your thoughts and just watch them. You're just watching them. You're not judging them. So you're judging them, I think, you're identifying with them more. So when it subsides, you experience a discontinuity in mental stream, a gap of no mind. At first, the gaps will be short, a few seconds perhaps, but gradually they will become longer. When these gaps occur, you feel a certain stillness and peace inside you. This is the beginning of your natural state of felt oneness with being, which is usually obscured by the mind. With practice, the sense of stillness and peace will deepen. In fact, there is no end to its depth. You will also feel a subtle emanation of joy arising from deep within, the joy of being. Now, I share this with you. He's not the only one I really read. In fact, I don't even think I read this whole book. But I agree with the things he talks about, and it's something that I've believed and I've also experienced. It's not bullshit. Like, isn't this a cool idea or a cool concept? No, it's universal truth. And truth is going to remain the truth, even if you're not looking at it. It's still truth. It's like, you can believe what you want about yourself, but there is a reality. I'm not saying I'm the one that sees the reality, because everybody sees a different part, because different angles. So, but there is a reality. No matter what angle you're looking at it from, whether it be from yourself or something else, there's a reality, a truth.
I think you broke through and you got your cross wall with me. You need to hear that.
So, okay, so also it talks about, you can also create a gap in the mind stream simply by directing the focus of your attention into the now. Just become intensely conscious of the present moment. In your everyday life, you can practice this by taking any routine activity that normally